Good evening, viewers, listeners, wherever you are, all over the universe. Today is Friday, February 4th. We bring you our 45th edition here in the Issues Room on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, the Issues Room page. Volcano Shelton say welcome here. This platform is the alternative social media platform. If you're in the house and pick up signal, let us know you're here. Last week we had an unfortunate situation where Facebook kind of gave us a 3 day blocked. It's part of making sure doing due diligence to this public media space is very important, and I appreciate it because it's a learning, experience, not just for me but for anyone who have a page on Facebook. Again, we're here Tuesdays and Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. As usual, we want to encourage you, our viewers and listeners, wherever you are, to join us. Share the link, invite someone, and let me bring in my good old friend and brother and colleague, Moses E. Sandy. Welcome again. We're back in business. I haven't seen anyone acknowledge us yet in the chat room, but I know that we're on live.
I'm happy. TGIF.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
God it's
God it's
Friday,
Friday.
right?
I think this is the
Yeah.
payday Friday. In fact, like boy Tenley had said, welcome, welcome. Thank you. You're here, dear. Good to have you in the house.
Yeah,
Moses, it's been a long week.
and we cannot let me say that I'm happy that we are back because it was a challenge for us, man, being in prison, right? A Facebook prison for, for 3 days. But let me say welcome to our many viewers and listeners out there. It's a pleasure to be with every one of you today. Wherever you find yourself, we are happy to connect with you. Welcome to the Issues Room. And today we have come with another thought provoking discussion. Buchanan,
It's good. It's good. It's
it's a
good. The
pleasure being
conversation
here with you.
it will be centered around three critical pieces. And the first piece is this controversial book that has been written by two Liberians in person of Emmanuel Clark, Professor Emmanuel Clark, and Isaac Va Tupa, formerly of the Congress for Democratic Change, and he was chairperson of the U.S. branch, and who fellow with President Weah, and then had to cross carpet. He went into the ANC camp and was chief of staff. I use the word was because he resigned as a
Yeah.
result of the controversial chapter 13. I called it a controversial chapter 13 in that book. We're also going to be looking at Representative Yekeh Kolubah, his continued struggle in the legislature. You know, so many things happening. And finally, we'll also talk about the at-risk youth in our country. Some of the things that are going on and what can we do as a society to ensure that we can improve their living condition, because these are the people that should be inheriting the helm of leadership. And if we have about 1 million youth in the country who we consider wayward, Zogos at risk, that's serious for our country, because we had the opportunity to learn and improve and create, you know, good upbringing by our parents, by our communities, and this is not happening for more than 1 million of our young people in that country. So again, I say welcome to all of you. Izondi, Isianyi, it's good to have you back in the house. My man Umo, Adia Umo, Theo and Sampon guy. He said, guys, good to have you back. Good to see you too as well. This evening we have two important people who've been here before, but because of this conversation, we thought to bring them in. And let me bring in one of our guests here. See, things happening now. Things are freezing. All right, Mr. John Yormie. John, good to have you back in the house.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be back here in 2022.
Oh yeah, you were here in
Yeah,
2021.
2021.
Okay, and Mr. Phillip
So,
Suah Jr. He was here last week when we had that problem, but we were able to broadcast live on Facebook, rather YouTube, and I just posted the show from last Tuesday. Philip, good to have you back in the house, man. You know, we couldn't hold this discussion without an intellectual like you and John
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Thank you.
It's a
it's a
pleasure.
pleasure. And let me join Buchanan and welcome
So
you
I would
both
like
of you to the Issues Room.
So I'll let Moses start the cue on the conversation here tonight. Moses, from your end, give a little background about this book, where we, how this whole issue came about. Tell us a little story, and then we can engage our two guests on this, to begin the conversation.
The book titled, the controversial book titled George Weah, The Dream, the Legend, the Rise to Power. I like the title, very beautiful title. So
Until it
this
gets to
book,
chapter 13.
it's chapter 13, chapter 12 are the controversial chapters in the book. But the book is about Liberia's president, the celebrated George Manuel Weah. The book looks into George Weah's family and social life, his soccer career, and the book also profiles his political career as well. This book was written by two US based Liberians, Mr. Emmanuel Clark, and Tor is a professor, and Mr. Ava Tuba, the former chief of staff to opposition political leader Alexander Cummings. Mr. Tuba, before I think he served Mr. Cummings for less than 5 months. And this week, he was coerced to resign in the wake of the publication of this controversial book. The book was published recently. Mr. Tuba, before forming alliance with Mr. Cummings, he and Mr. George Weah, they have a long relationship that dates by several years. And Joy even stood in Mr. Weah's wedding when Mr. Weah
And you
took
need to declare we are.
Claire Weah. Yeah, when he took Claire Weah, I'm told that Mr. Tuba was part of that wedding. Mr. Va Tuba, rather, Isaac Va Tuba, is former chairman of the CDC USA branch. Later on, he fell off with the ruling party. He's one of those guys that many say that Mr. Weah has never turned to look back at. So the relationship between the two of them is very terrible. I am told that he spent several months hoping that Weah would consider him for a political appointment, but that did not work out. So you see that the two gentlemen have bad blood running. Mr. Clark, Emmanuel Clark, is a professor. So the both of them team up to publish this controversial book that took a critical look at George Weah. The controversy really erupted when our friend and brother Henry Costa lifted chapter 13, which contained disparaging comments allegedly attributed to President Weah, and that delved into Mr. Weah and his wife' private life. I'm not prepared to go into that, but the comments are very, very dehumanizing. So since the publication, Monrovia has gone wild. There has been mixed reaction to this publication. From the government end, the Minister of Gender, Pisotes, I mean, Pisota, cities, or whatever, labeled the publication as demonizing and a national disgrace. Opposition politicians, including Mr. Alexander Cummings, Unity Party, Joseph Walker, have all condemned the publication. Ordinary Liberians have also condemned the publication. The Traditional Women Council of Liberia, which brings together Judy Andy, Liberia's cultural ambassador Judy Andy. They call for, they call on Mr. Tuba and his co-author, Mr. Clark, to offer a public apology to the First Lady for the defamation she suffered as a result of this publication. The concerned women of Liberia also came up and also expressed regret about the publication. So there have been condemnation from several quarters. In the wake of the condemnation, we also have some Liberians who come from a different, perspective from this, including Maserado County, the controversial Representative Yekeh Kolubah. And Mr. Kolubah says that as far as concerned, the authors didn't do anything wrong. Whatever they wrote, according to him, reflect the saying of President Weah. And some people are saying that whatever that is quoted in the book could have been what we call men's talk. But as far as Representative Kolubah is concerned, Mr. Weah is fond of denigrating Liberian women, especially women that he is involved with intimately. So as far as concerned, the authors didn't do anything wrong. What they wrote reflect, quote unquote, George Weah. And there are also other intellectuals in the United States and other places who believe that the authors committed no crime. So, in summary, that's the book. That's where we are. I'm sure we'd like to kick off the discussion from there.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Moses. So,
Mhm.
gentlemen, you've heard Moses give the background, and I thought it was well placed. So, this conversation is not as strange as it is now because it's taken, a whole wildfire kind of experience. I'll start with you, John, because you've been on sabbatical for a little bit, and we'll come to Philip. What is your opinion or perspective on this whole thing? Let's say 5 minutes here to break this thing down for us.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton, and thank you, Mr. Sandy. I'm glad to have this panel shared with my distinguished brother, Mr. Suah Jr. And I would like to make this clarity firstly. Being on this show this evening is squarely based on the invite of this platform as a Liberian author and a researcher. And I would definitely and profoundly try to give my analysis and feedback based upon ethical standards, professional standards, and that of research practices,
And
void of my.
especially when it comes to being an author
Yeah.
and writing
Yeah.
books, right?
Sure,
Right.
sure. So firstly, I want to rise on the premise of the title of the book.
Yeah.
If you want to look at its title, "The Dream, the Legend, the Rise to Power," is an attractive
Yeah.
combination of very attractive words that cut across different aspects of our society. If you want to talk about a dream, what do you want to have in the mind, and how can you portray that into actual life? Is your dream. And you want to look at a legend, and I like this word because a legend is not just a word that is used because you must have had a past, but a very positive past and an impactful past. And in my opinion, I think the current president has had an impactful past, especially in the sector of his profession, soccer, and he has impacted a lot of people, and he rose to the highest point of his career. So being a legend is clearly spelled out in that direction. If
Mhm.
Thank
you
you.
want to talk about rise to power, it brings about politics. A very popular, well acclaimed so called legend twist the path of his originality to a new calling, according to him, and supported by the popular support of the Liberian people from 2005 as a presidential candidate, coming up to 2011 as a vice in Liberia, 2013 as say ambassador of peace, to 2014 as a senator, and again 2017 as a presidential aspirant, in fact, presidential candidate, and emerging as our president, and at a very critical period of our history where for many decades we didn't observe a peaceful transition from an elected president to another. That was remarkable. So in terms of that, there are a lot to look up to. So I thought the title was really okay. And more interestingly, the book was not just written and published by just ordinary or in the terms of Americans want to say rookies. No, we are talking about people who have played some important parts either in the educational sector or in the academic space of our country, stakeholders, if I may want to say, lack of better words. So, what must have prompted these people to write a book titled the way it was titled? I want to say good title, good timing, but again, what takes away the actual value trying to acclaim this war figure who is now the president? And we have been a president. I mean, many times we want to confuse a president with the presidency. So it goes beyond just Mr. Weah as
I
the
like. I
president.
want you to say that again. I want you to say that piece again.
Yeah, it goes more than just
No,
the
no, no. You said
individual.
we
Yeah,
confuse what
that's an
president.
excellent point you
Yeah,
just
we
made,
confuse just being a president with the
President.
presidency.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we are as an individual is the president, and the office he occupies is the presidency.
President.
So everything his actions, and all of those associated with him is about the Republic of Liberia beyond we are as an individual who is the president. So if a book is ready, I'm concerned as a Liberian. I'm concerned as a Liberian author, and I'm concerned as a person associated with the first line of ministry that is also responsible for conducting the foreign affairs of our country, which is very critical. So this title, and like you have mentioned, I want to keep in the confines of it because too many things to talk about, but I want to be more specific tonight.
Mhm.
You want to talk about how this book has been received. Many people in different ways from the political side, which I think is the more trending one, have tried to live outside of the actual literary purpose. But what I want to say tonight, we have a responsibility, especially within the media space. Ever since this book was published, there hasn't been a media entity to do an investigative journalistic practice. Talk to Mr. Tupa, talk to Mr. Emmanuel. Why they wrote this book? What is the intent of this book? The content is out, but what is the intent of this book? We are yet to establish that.
So then let me help you right there. And I'll pause you right there. I have had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Clark. He has committed that he will come on social media, particularly the Issues Room platform. However, because the situation is still boiling and they're looking at what could come out of it, they don't want to begin talking. And especially when his co-author was considered absconding or fleeing, and the controversies around his being at
Departure
the
from
border and
Monrovia.
trying to get out and do all of this. He wanted them to be on an accord. So as I confidently telling you, there has been no conversation yet on the social media platform because they are, kind of weighing what I would say, testing the waters of weighing the environment.
Thank you. So until that, as a researcher, I want to say there are in fact substantial to rely on. So until now, we are speaking from the existing realities, correct? So now this book, the content is out. We have not established the intent of it. Because if I'm speaking as a researcher, as an author, when I'm writing a book or I'm writing an opinion piece, I'm writing with something in my mind, trying to portray to the public. So now this book is out. Chapter 1 and chapter 13 have become the most, say, concentrated aspect of the book. Why aren't we talking about other aspects of the book that talks about who is Weah, how did he ascend, his struggles and his triumph and all of that? It is because of the issue of morality and ethics. So if you want to look at it from the point of, say, the ethics, which I want to really focus on, and the methodology, if you are writing a piece for, say, the purpose of making analysis of a public official based on documents that are out and based upon public performances, you don't have to call him. You may want to, but not necessarily. You could look at the reports from the public space, previous performances based on the mandate of that office, and make an analysis. All right. But if you have faction that in the context that appears to be an autobiography and quoting from the very description of the book,
Yeah.
talking about the methodology that we use, the various methodologies used to acquire data for that book. Talks about interviewing friends, close associates, getting secondary desk research, talking about publication from FIFA and all of that. There is no point that talks about an original interview of, say, Mr. Weah or Mistress Weah. And these are the subjects of the book. I thought there was a little ethical breach over there. So in that way, if you must have preferred to ask associates other than the main subjects of the book, then there is something to look out and to rethink. I don't want to say squarely to say it is wrong, but there are some major issues to look at in that direction at the level of how it has been received from the public. Much investigation have not been made. People are rather being hyped by the politics around it than the actual realities around publication, the ethical practices, and the methodological procedures in doing the publication. So, as it stands, I think the public has gone more of the politics around it than that of the ethical procedures and the investigative aspect of it. So I'm not trying to bring down the authors because these are not just ordinary people, like I said, well schooled, very scholarly. What has been the intent of writing the book? On every day, I would tell you, Mr. Clark knows exactly ethics around publication as well as Mr. Tupac. So have we asked them whether it met the consent of Mr. Weah or Mistress Weah? Yet to be established. But as far as they have not identified that they talk to those people who want to hold it as being some ethical breaches there. So I want to
Thank
hold
you.
it there for that point, and maybe we can say more about that. But
Thank
it's
you.
something
Thank
really
you.
interesting to talk about.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Suah.
Mr. Suah.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks, John. And I'm really
For
glad.
analysis.
Yeah, I'm really glad you have you led with the right footing. I appreciate the way you went about expressing your content. So I would first start with some full disclosure on my part, so I know.
Everybody give it. Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know Ava personally. I know I've known him for many years from I think maybe 2011 when he was CDC USA chair and I was coming in as LP USA chair. So we've had a very good relationship, very cordial relationship, and I've interacted with him over the years. And we respect him as an individual. So that's the first. The second disclosure: I have not read the book in its entirety. I've read snippets of it, some of the controversial pieces. So I can't comment on the book as a whole, but I can comment on those controversial aspects. So I think the first thing we would want to discuss in this book for me is what type of society do we want to become, right? That's what jumped at me when I saw the content. Is this how we want to develop our society? I mean, without being judgmental in any way, whether towards Va or towards the president who was quoted in the book, allegedly. So that's what jumped at me. So the way I looked at it was regardless of the factual content, right? Whether what's written in the book is exactly what happened, right? Whether we have evidence that the president said what he said because those words were in quotation. So I'm discounting all of that and I'm just going purely on the content. And if that is what we want our society to be. And I disagree with the content, right? Being in the public space the way it was displayed. I believe that we set examples for the next generation in what we say and what we do. And I don't believe this is good for our country. Some information, even if it's said, even if it's about the president or the presidency, I think we should have some limits as society. Now, this is me, right? Liberians as a whole, as a society, we have to determine if we want to agree with me in terms of what society we want to be, or if we want to go the other way where this is normal and this is good, right? But I disagree entirely with posting that type of information in the public space, regardless of the president saying it or not. Because even let's assume the president had said it. Let's assume that information is available to prove that he had said it. You also have another individual in that book who didn't consent to it, right? And allegedly the first lady, if that's who they're,
Just let it. Mhm.
yeah. So she didn't disclose any of that information. She didn't say that, hey, this is information I wanted in the public space. So you're hearing information from one individual, but then you're casting aspersions on another person's reputation by disclosing that information publicly. So that's the thing that to me I didn't like, right? Just about the post. Again, I'm not gonna judge the entire book because I haven't read it. I'm not gonna judge the authors of the book purely on the fact that I haven't read the entire book. I'm gonna judge them on making that portion of it public because that's what I've seen.
So let me come in quick and say this. I was reading something on the side uh, regarding this, and accordingly, the book's first publication of manuscript, the original, before it went even public, had not had that component in the book. There was original manuscripts of the book. That piece was not in the book.
Chapter
So
13 was in there.
that section of what we're talking
Okay.
about now, the
Okay.
disparaging
Okay.
piece
Yeah.
that allegedly President Weah made regarding
Yeah.
his wife and
Mhm.
that of his experience as a
Yeah.
man. There
Yes.
was nothing in the original script um, prior to publication. So at what point did that come in? And again, we don't know because was the intent to sell the book? Because as we heard, the book came off for $20. Now the book is $28.
Yeah.
Who knows? As this
It's a high
conversation
demand. Yeah.
continued to pervade the the community of Liberia and that of the diaspora, how much more that this book gonna cost? So again, and I like the way Yomi put it. It is hard until we have the first interview with both the author and co-author to discuss some of those pieces. Then, of course, will be, you know, not will just be hanging in the balance and swinging like a pendulum. But I think the whole idea here is, and I like the way you guys are on the same page here, that that piece was not necessary because it didn't. It shows here. I listened to Reverend Levi Martin the other day. He looked at Just the Man, Isaac Vatuba, and he went extensively to discuss that from his perspective were also not necessary, that irrespective of how he was treated by President Weah, the relationship they had, uh, nothing is promised. I mean, I can work with you for years, and if you finally make it and don't want to look my way,
That's it.
I have my values. I can take that energy and put it into something so you can look back and say, now you see me,
Yeah.
I made it. And he did well to align with Alexander Cummings to change the way that he was looked at by we as camp. And let's hypothetically say it had he been stick to it and stick with Mr. Cummings and Mr. Cummings won the 2023 elections and become president. He cannot turn to we and say, got you. You see? But
Yeah.
instead of jumping the guns and including Claire Weir and all of that, and this is where all of this stuff is coming. And
Yeah, Mr. Shelton, just quickly, as
yeah,
you were speaking, I just
Mhm.
tried to pull up something quickly. And I like to say, because we have the kind of society we have, we tend to quickly accept things. If you check on Amazon, that book price, from what I see on Amazon, hasn't reached $29.
okay,
It hasn't.
Mhm. Okay.
It was at
So,
$20. It has been reduced to $14.99, like $15
95
okay.
difference.
cents. Somebody
Yeah.
just
So
posted. Telvi Cole just
Yeah.
speculation
posted.
right there.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
just thought to have made that. So we
So
must keep,
apparently, maybe have gone up and then as
The price
you
is
know,
declining now.
it's
yeah.
declining. So it's swinging.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
one good thing
So good
about it, it
point.
has a good rating of being one of the best African history seller. So that's
Yeah.
to just make sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, Volcano, you finished? I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
wanted
I
to
was
say
just trying.
something. Yeah.
I was just trying to.
But look, guys, for me personally, I don't want to come across tonight as a moral police, but as a media person, as a clinical, social worker, I think the purpose of the book. Look at the title of the book: "The Dream, the Legend, the Rise." I'm sure John and Suah will agree with me that anybody rushing to grab a copy of that book will be doing so because they want to see where this guy came from to where he is today. Because that will help to encourage other people to copy what he did over the years. The dream, the legend, the rise. But chapter 13,
So,
chapter 1,
so Moses,
had defeated. Yeah, quickly, Volcano.
yeah. So
Chapter 13. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
yeah. So you see, I'm thinking here to myself, if
Yeah,
Isaac Atuba was so aggrieved with his
yeah.
relationship with President Weah, Philip, John,
Mhm.
why would he come up with this caption? Because it means that somewhere in his heart he knew that this guy
There's something,
was important.
commendable.
And accordingly, the original manuscript of the book didn't have this controversial piece.
Please. Mhm.
So at what point, because if I'm really pissed with someone, I'm not going to sit there and spend countless hours to write a positive
Oh,
story
peace.
for
Yeah,
that person.
positive peace. And,
So initially, everything looked well. So at
mhm.
what point everything then changed by this paragraph in chapter 13? So
Yeah,
I'm just
so
thinking out loud, like you said, the
mhm,
caption alone is captivating. So it means
very,
that
very captivating.
Isaac was writing this book with his co-author or his author,
Yeah,
a partner, from a good place.
yeah.
Think
So,
about it, John.
yeah.
Think about it,
Mhm.
Philip. What do you think, Philip?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
quickly, if I could just complete my thought, the
Mhm.
anchor from which it came was very positive, and that would make people to what? Rush to get the
Gravitate
book,
toward it.
gravitate towards the book, the positivity. But chapter 13 just defeated that entire purpose. And then let's look at how the information was handled in chapter 13. Volcano, it is so demonizing. It portrayed the first lady as having no other strength than being in bed. It was too graphic. And you want to tell me, reportedly, Mr. Weah would not have said anything positive about this lady besides intimacy, as reported by Ava and Emmanuel.
But the question came from the fact: why did you marry? Why did you leave all the Liberian
Yeah,
women
or the Liberian
and
women,
marry a Jamaican woman?
a Jamaican woman. So
Yes. So
is Ava and Emmanuel telling us that as
that's what I'm
far as
saying. Yeah.
Mr. Weah
Context.
is
Context.
concerned, there's no other positive thing about this woman. She has no other significant strength that would have made to make such a decision. Instead of intimacy,
yeah.
that
So
defeats the purpose of the book.
yeah. So
Yeah. Mhm.
for me, I think I come at it a little, from a different angle because one, I again, I'm not gonna prejudge Bob because he has a story to come and tell, right? Like you stated, Volcano, he may not have come from a negative angle. This could have been an error. So if he can come back and say, "Hey, this is an error. I made a mistake. I went too far," then it's a different discussion, right? Because we don't know. We can't assume that he meant it in a way that maybe the way we're interpreting it.
It's
But
in the public domain.
yeah, exactly. But if you look at where we've been as a society, how we've treated women in the past, how we've um, yeah, treated women in the past negatively. Liberia has always been a patriarchal society. We haven't, given women a lot of opportunities that they deserve. We haven't treated women with the level of respect that they deserve. and the list goes on. So we are in a phase in our country now where we're trying to turn that corner to say, look, women are this, women are that, we give them the same rights, we have the same opportunities. So if we start going to this corner where we're showing women in this light, that defeats the progress that can be made for some of the younger generation that are coming, after us. I have a daughter. I know I wouldn't want my daughter to be in a book in that manner. I have a wife. I wouldn't want my wife to be in that, be mentioned in such regards. I have sisters. I wouldn't want them to be in France. I wouldn't want them to be in that regard. So I think to me that's the key. And whether Mr. Weah said it in that regard, whether it is how he views his wife. I mean, that's all up for interpretation. But I think I just come from that corner that the way it was written, the way I've seen it, I wouldn't be comfortable, putting that in the public space.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
John?
Yeah, I mean, like you people have said previously, and I want to agree with all of the points that have been made. Every society has challenges. They have current issues to address. And one of the major issues now confronting the Liberian society is the issue of gender abuse and sexual abuse in the society. So the kind of publications we put out should be able to elevate the thinking as to how we can overcome this current menace within our society. So if you can have a publication that is embraced by the society, why is it telling us that, I mean, we can talk to ladies anyhow, we can push them anyhow, because it is something that has become a norm in our society. Because I remember many years coming up, if you saw a lady, you had to speak to her in a certain way, you had to address her in a certain way. That's a cultural thing of Liberian men. You will sit in a vehicle and see a lady from nowhere, because of your cultural bringing from boyhood, will give the seat to that lady in recognition of what the society identify as a value to that lady. So if a publication comes to one of the forerunners of our society, with the first lady and one of the champions of the campaign against some of the abuses within our society, is something to look at very technically. And we've all said that. But again, if for any reason to really be open and look up from the point of publication, if it should be anything that they must have said, no matter what, we see it from the lens of a literary publication that we want to get out and we're comfortable with, they should have been contacted, and there must have been an express consent. I want to leave it open, not just from the point of being more a moral advocate or the supporter of women's rights, but let us look it up from an open perspective. If for any reason, holding all factor constant, that this publication was something, we are okay with that. It's a description of something that could say things happen the way they happen, but we are okay with it. For any reason, the processes leading to that must have been done. So I just want to play that portion that has to do with the processes that lead to publication, as well as talking about how morally decadent that is as well.
So let me just say this, and let me play the devil's advocate here in my capacity as the pilot here tonight. Hypothetically, say we're making music. Mr. Weah made music the other day. He called people Mr. Liar Man, even though he wasn't straight and direct. But in hindsight, he was telling certain people that they were lying about the reality that people are talking about the economy, about the rule of law, and all these things. And people were dancing to the song, right? Similarly, people have made songs. If you don't like it, we're bored like zombies, and you can go do whatever, go hug the transformer, and when you hug the transformer, what will happen to you? So all these things we take it and we throw it under the carpet, right? But here is the president. The president is scooping to the level of ordinary citizens, and it's fine. Yes, we agree. But here's the president playing volleyball and getting trophy, a competitive sport. The man don't even practice volleyball, but he getting most valuable trophy.
The most valuable player,
So all these things are the things that making people to think from both sides. And I'm being honest here.
Yeah. So for
That's
me,
why people are thinking from both sides. That's why Yekeh Kolubah is saying, no, no, no. This is the president's characteristics. This is who he is. So why are we pounding on the two authors? Yes, of course. Yes, because they should have looked at it from a more positive perspective as to what damage you have done to the image of the first lady. But in the same token, what is Mr. President doing that will give this excuse for his actions and inactions? Philip, you want to say
so
something?
yeah. So to me, this is not about the first lady alone. See, so if we picture it like that, then it's
But that's how this is how it's being pictured now.
correct. Yeah.
President Weah is totally left out of the equation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
President
because
Weah has done a lot and is doing a
Mr.
lot
Weah,
that
Mr.
created
Weah,
this situation as well.
Yeah. But
Volcano,
Yeah.
Mr. Suah, let me just say something quick.
mhm.
Volcano, the focus now is on Mrs. Weah because she is the direct victim of Chapter 13.
I agree. But I'm saying that
Mhm.
let's look at the other side of the coin as well.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I would
Go
not
ahead, Mr.
sit here
Suah.
and disagree with all of what you guys have said and the
Yeah.
premises you've laid out. But I'm also saying that we had a president who was controversial a few years ago here in America. President Trump talked about a locker room, grab
Yeah.
them and do X,
Yeah.
Y, Z,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
His wife would have been impacted by that comment. Is that what he's doing to his wife? People would think from that perspective. But didn't the world run with that information? Didn't it cost him some kind of
It did.
disgrace in some
It did.
instances? CNN took it, many media. They didn't leave him out, right?
Yeah. But you see the issue, even the reference you're making, the analogy you're making here, is it wasn't just focused on the individual woman or women he grabbed, right? People looked at it for women everywhere across the country. And then you make that decision, hey, is this a society we want where a man could be doing this thing to women? And so it's the same thing, like I said, I was trying to say earlier.
Yeah.
This situation to me, when I read it, yes, the first lady, obviously, because she's the immediate and direct victim. But I stood back to look at it from the perspective of women, Liberian women. And I think John had mentioned some of what we've experienced in the past as a society. Is this, we don't want this type of thing out there where we feel it's normal. We don't want to normalize this behavior. Because one of the things I've noticed being in this country, if you keep giving the public certain information, you desensitize everybody. And then at some point, it just becomes normal. And so I think the way we've all responded as a society is we don't want this to be normal. That's what it's telling me in the Liberians, because it cut across political lines, it cut across gender lines, it cut across all kinds of lines. People raising their hands and say, look, this is a bridge too far.
Yeah, and I just wanted to jump right in there. There when
Yeah.
the issue of laws and norms come in, because there are things that you may do that may not necessarily breach a particular constitutionality or an existing law in a society, but it may not be accustomed to the practices, especially the norms of the society. The kind of society we project as Liberians is far, far better than the one that denigrates ladies. So from that angle, we are taking it as a national discourse to see how the issue of gender should be more prioritized in the way of respectability. I mean, many times I've received a lot of calls. People have been asking me what have been some of the responses being within the social media space, and some people come with some radical points like, if this should be the case, it should not be selective. It should be something when it comes about, it should be of Liberian women, not about elite Liberian women. Because a lot of things have come up like these, but it has not grabbed that public attention as it is as the first lady. But I'm saying here, hey, this is the first lady, the kind of attachment will be wide. But again, it is also important to say it should be beyond just the first lady. Every single
At
Liberian
every
lady,
level.
every single individual should have that privilege and support of we Liberian men and the country as a whole. So these are things to talk about when you want to look it up from that angle as well.
And I think you're
And
very
John,
right. It must
yeah,
be condemned at every level. We
and
we
John,
have daily
okay.
rapes. We have daily rapes going on. We have daily molestation going on for children. for women, and and these things are trending on social media, but it doesn't get the acclaimed attention as per an alleged comment. So
Yeah.
you're right, John. Uh,
Yeah. Mhm.
Everything needs to be condemned at every level.
I agree. And I just want to piggyback on what John said. He struck a very salient point in terms of acceptability. And I think that's where the authors made a mistake. John, you're a researcher. Volcano, we are journalists. When we are doing radio programs, we intend to put out a news story. One thing that you take a closer look at or that you consider in that process is your audience. And that is where Mr. Kuba and Emmanuel, I would say, blundered. What is acceptable in the West? People who say Liberia is part of the global village. Yes, we do. But our cultural practices, in terms of morality, where do we stand? So the kind of description that they gave that woman in that book cannot easily sell in Liberia. It is considered denigration. It is defaming. It violates the moral ethics of our society. And they did not consider that. I mean, they were so graphic. The guys would have presented that story in a way that at least be euphemistic, explain it in a way that the book would sell. But to be that graphic, and you say this is Liberia, and I hear some of our educated people say, oh, well, this is free speech, this is free speech. Are you telling me, Volcano, that my 10-year-old will be reading that? Is this because this is in the public domain? It's not about under George Weah. And again, one thing we need to understand, look, we have to be human. Men will always be men. Men will talk. Women will talk. And in the business of communication, one of the cardinal responsibility we have is what? Not everything that we put out there. You have to review, you look at the implication of whatever you intend to broadcast, whatever you intend to publish. How is this going to impact the society? As a
Yeah.
Vatuba, Emmanuel Clark did not consider that. It was all about what? The book must be sold.
Well, I would say that I think John said it right. We should
Mhm.
reserve some of those quick to
Yeah,
judge as to
yeah. I
why
mean,
they
I'm
be
just speaking,
condemned.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm
So
just
let's
speaking.
reserve that
Yeah,
until these guys
mhm,
grant interview. But if this
yeah.
is joining us, let me go to intermission quickly. We
Sure.
are here in the issues room. The
Mhm.
issues room is an alternative social media platform here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and the Issues Room page. We broadcast Tuesdays and Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And at this time, we're broadcasting at 7 because, midnight in Liberia and partly in other places of the world because of the time zone. Hopefully, coming in the spring, our time will still be 7, but then it'll be 11 p.m. in those areas. Just want to make that very clear. The Issues Room brings in tonight Mr. Phillip Suah Jr. in his own capacity as a Liberian, contributing here to the conversation. Mr. John Yormie Jr. also as a Liberian, contributing here to the conversation. We're going to move now to the next segment. We'll lay the book to rest for now.
Yeah,
Both our discussants here tonight have laid up some of the very particular things we discussed, and that we will buy some time. Hopefully, if we can get the authors to come in, then it will be much more of a bigger conversation, and then we can clear some of the doubts here that we kind of raised and the concerns we raised here tonight. But let's come to the controversial. Again, I use the word controversial because he's going through controversies in his
yeah,
political career. Honorable Representative Yekeh Kolubah. Honorable Representative Yekeh Kolubah has been faced with a lot of continued struggle within the legislature. Yekeh Kolubah is a vocal, very particular guy who speaks his mind. He always asks the press that you don't want talking for me or I'm talking for myself, you know.
Yeah.
and 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 he doesn't back down
And
when
there's a serious need.
no, yeah, he doesn't back down. He doesn't back down when the
Yeah.
conversation is going on.
Yeah.
So he goes around giving interviews. He goes around telling the Liberian people that the president is all about himself. He wants trophies, so he will give him trophies. He will buy jerseys. He bought football. He calls the president all kinds of names because he says the president has reduced the presidency. And that's why it clicked when John said
When
there's a
John said
difference
that,
between the president and the
and the
presidency.
office which he occupies.
Okay? So Yekeh comes from that perspective that the president has denigrated the office of the presidency. And so lately he's been in a lot of stuff. At one point, he was suspended from the house. He came back. They have not paid him his salary. He continued to say that people are depriving he and his family from their daily living. So recently he had a press conference. He again reiterated his position. He's not going to join the CDC. He stands with the CPP and he's going to make sure the CPP is revitalized. He also brought several trophies from his trip abroad, and I would say abroad in the context of traveling, I believe, to Ghana. And he
Yeah.
said, this trophy is for this one, the president. This trophy is for this one, the president. This trophy, and he went on. Then the other day, he went to the house and was thrown up because of his dress code. So I'll let Moses just a minute quickly talk about the dress code that led to the latest. I will put it.
Yeah,
So
action
I don't
against
think
him.
I should use the word expulsion, but thrown out.
Yeah, he was
Out,
thrown
out
out. He was
yeah,
thrown
thrown
out.
out.
You are. They asked the sergeant and
Go ahead.
the security guard to escort him out of chambers. The national legislature as a whole. Um, there's a dress code. Anyone going there has to be dressed. As per the definition, you have to be dressed. Officially, meaning that you can go in there with jeans. You can go in there with t-shirts and others. But Honorable Yekeh Kolubah, from the way he looked, I saw him with a t-shirt and a jacket. Again, the house has its own regulation. So he was asked to leave, but before being asked to leave, this is what happened. When he entered the house, Yekeh being the Yekeh that we know, he started making some comments, negative comments about the speaker, the leadership. In fact, he said there's a need for the leadership of the House to be audited because he feels that funds for the House of Representatives have been misdirected for other unintended purposes. He When he said that, an argument ensued between him and two other lawmakers of the CDC. One of them is Representative Akawas Gray, who cheers that he's what? He's the chairman on the executive. Akawas Gray is a very prominent man in the House of Representatives. And if you watch the video of Volcano,
I've seen the
Akawas
video.
Gray, yeah, but Akawas Gray was in the House of Representatives in the chamber. He and another representative, the guy would replace a young blood, Mona, and both of them threatened to physically attack Honorable Yekeh Kolubah if he goes back to the house on Tuesday and makes any negative comment against the president or insult the president. Quote unquote, they threatened to beat him. And we're talking about someone duly elected, someone who represents Liberia, being threatened with a physical attack. The Supreme Court ruled that Honorable Yekeh Kolubah should be paid after he returned to work. He was suspended by his colleagues. He came back to work. And up to now, this man has not been paid. But again, if you look on the flip side, Yekeh Kolubah, everything that comes from him to George Weah is negativity. He puts the presidency down. He puts Mr. Weah down. He calls in names. Is this how the legislature, especially the House of Representatives, should be proceeding? I think that's the concern that we all have tonight.
So let's start with Philip.
Yeah.
Since Yormie started first, let's
Yeah.
start with Philip.
So where do we start? I think again it goes back to what society we want to be. I go right back to that because on both sides, right? I personally wouldn't insult someone who's in the office of the presidency, right? I wouldn't do that.
Irrespective of how you feel.
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, I mean, you disagree, you critique, you criticize, but it wouldn't be insulting, right? There's a difference to me. So, I would never insult President Weah. I would never insult anyone in the office of the presidency, not in those terms. Now, I think there's a difference between insult and critiques, right? So, sometimes some of the things that maybe Honorable Representative Kolubah says may color the lines, but sometimes he's just criticizing the president in his way, right? Whether we agree with it or not. To me, that's different. Bringing trophies and giving to the president, there's nothing illegal about it. Yeah.
Nope.
Making fun of the president in different ways, there's nothing illegal about it. You can't say it's insulting,
But sometimes he uses profanity.
Yeah, so
it's
that's
coming
where
with that.
I run for the hills, right? That's when I run for the hills when you start doing that, because we got to have a certain level of respect for the office. Yes, we can laugh, we can make fun and do all kinds of things within the public space. I think we're all open for that, but I think there's a line that we all have to respect. So I wouldn't personally be doing that. Now, if someone chooses to do that, that's on them. I'm not judging them. I just disagree with doing that. Now, also, if you look at what's being done against Representative Kolubah, that too is not right. Threatening to beat someone, it's got to be illegal somewhere. It has got to be illegal somewhere. To publicly threaten to cause bodily harm to someone can be legal. And doing so in a place where the laws of the country are made is some kind of an irony that we can look at later. But that's what I would say. And because the reason why sometimes, and it's not just one person, a lot of people do it in the public space, come out and insult the president. They did it to the former president, Madam Sirleaf, who, we can all disagree
And
with.
those very people in this camp.
Exactly.
You see, these
Exactly.
are the things we talk about here.
Exactly.
They did that.
And that's why if it's wrong on one foot, it has to be wrong on the other foot, right? So now it's on the other foot. They're feeling what Madam Sirleaf and those who supported her felt when she was in office, when they used to insult her, like say some things that I would never say to any woman, and they said it to her. And she had, as much as we all criticize Madam Sirleaf and will continue to criticize certain things in her administration, but she didn't deserve the things that were thrown her way. I know those of us who were in the political space, we, on our side, without getting specific to a political party, never insulted Madam Sirleaf, at all. We criticized the output of her administration. We criticized the policies, the results, but not once did we throw the type of language that others threw at her during administration. Now it's on the other side, and they're understanding fully now that, this stuff is bad. It doesn't feel good, and that's what makes it bad.
Tell me, John.
Yeah, thank you. And I think I want to follow in similar pattern. There should be no way we should give up on the diplomatic channel of solving problems. And as political leaders, especially those who have been elected at the legislature, whether at their House of Representatives or at their House of Senate, mostly referred to as the House of Elders, what we conduct ourselves daily, the way we do every aspect of our function, whether by representation, oversight, or lawmaking, is a clear reflection of how we want the current generation to see us and how we are thinking of the next generation. So we should always be in that position of a proper, I like to say from a more political point, or proper deportment. So if there are things that are so heated, that brings frustration and all of that, we should be always calm. That that tactfulness should be portrayed at all point in time. There will be times you will share your ideas, You will be violated, you will be disrespected, but there are ways to channel it out, and the rest of the people would know that I am being violated because I have an alternative or political view, or because I'm being critical of the current establishment. We talk about the presidency. No matter what, that's why we refer to him or her as His Excellency or Her Excellency, an extraordinary person, a group of people have gathered to support. So no matter who you think the person is, that person deserves that respect. But again, there are times people, I mean, from a psychological point, people get frustrated and they get disappointed when the expectations of that office turn to flip a little bit. But in no way that should mean
A whole
you,
lot, not a little bit, a whole
yeah,
lot.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just being careful with my words here. So, but that should
I
in
forgot
no
you're a
way,
diplomat.
yeah, thank you. But that should in no way mean you should cross the red line. Again, the issue of one thing I want to say, and say it with honesty, because I love Liberia and I want to see a better country. Responsible leadership is required at all time, at all time, and responsible leadership should go with the confines of the law. We have the constitution and we have various hierarchy of laws within our country, and one of the lower hierarchies is the issue of policies. The House of Representatives, where in the case is Yekeh Kolubah representing district number 10, has their rules and regulation outside of just the regular constitution. They talk about their immunities, they talk about their benefits, and also talk about their dress code, which is the etiquette. So if for any reason, like on two occasions, Mr. Kolubah has been thrown out of session based upon the rules and order of the House of Representatives. That's clear violation of him being a representative and not living in the confines of that. Kudos to the House of Representatives. They have a committee called Rules, Order, and Administration. So that person will obviously be consulted and given the provision of what is required of a representative in terms of his etiquette, which has to do with dress code. So on that, they have taken some really strong decisions. Kudos. But in that way, upholding the law should not be one pedal up and another pedal down. If for any reason Mr. Kolubah is representing his constituency, there are benefits for his job he does within the 6 years period. That is what they call the legislative term, the section of 6 different sections. He is required to get all of his benefits in all the company. If there has been issue of violations and maybe some ethical breaches, it is the Supreme Court that has the right to interpret that. And interpretations have been made, findings have been established, and recommendations have been made instructing the House of Representatives to restore the benefits to this honorable man. So it is the responsibility of a responsible leadership to do just what is right. So we as people within the space of providing leadership, providing information to the public, must be very honest in our dealing. And that's what I try to do whenever I have the opportunity. We should have the construction of our society based on the rule of law, because individuals are selfish, we are egoistic, we have our desires, but we cannot live outside of the confines of the law. We must do it in a way that is respectful of each and everyone's right. So these are the kind of things we want to talk about when we want to talk about the current situations within the legislature at a point in time. I don't know what you think about it.
Thank you, thank you. Let me just say this quickly. Someone said that Akaras were wearing tennis shoes yesterday, but tennis shoes not allowed in that kind of function. I would
And
think you will wear
you
dress
should be
shoes.
formally
So I'm gonna
attired.
go look at that video again and drag it to see if I found him in tennis shoes. But that was just a
Yeah,
comment. But let me say this, and I want to give President Weah props here tonight. This man has perseverance and fortitude when it comes to patience and tolerance. Any other president would have thrown Yekeh Kolubah in jail, irrespective of him being represented. He would have used his executive power to grab Yekeh Kolubah and lock him
that
up.
would be violation.
Oh yeah, you can do that in some of those guys. You know the other presidents who were there before
I
him.
know, I
So
know.
I want to give President Weah the credit and the fortitude to have endured all of these kinds of derogatory statements being made against him. And I think I agree with you, John. I agree with Philip. There's a way to criticize, but when you call somebody a dog and this and that, that means you don't even respect yourself as a representative. And let's call a spade here tonight.
Absolutely.
Let's be practical. You are representing a constituency of people who are of diverse intelligence and background. They saw you. Yekeh is not that educated, but I'm sure in his district there are people with probably doctorate degree, there are people with masters, but they see you as their representation within the house to pursue the things that would benefit the community. So you got to advance to another level, And to say the truth, I think that he's going too much crossing over the red line. He needs to come from another perspective. I'm not going to tell you so you don't have the right to disagree, and you can do it more civil, you can do it more responsible, more respectful, because you are also in the public space. You are also representing a political office. You are also a leader. You could ascend tomorrow to the presidency. There's a possibility because of your political career over time. You could decide tomorrow to run. And the people say, we want a no nonsense president, and they put you there. But remember, that would not recluse you from the same thing you're doing today. And we continue to say it will reverberate. So I mean, I'm just saying it from my perspective, and to give President Weah hats off, and I will clap for him. He's been
True.
very, very tolerating for over these years, and Yekeh now has to retool, rethink on how he gets his points across. And like Philip said, the trophies, recreating laughter, creating jeers and cheers, that's good enough. But when you get down to vulgarities and profanity, that even disgraces your post as a representative. Anybody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it goes both ways too, because you have, again, our society as a whole, we get so personal when we disagree with people. We start insulting. So if you listen to what I think he said, so I heard someone said, quoted him as saying he was responding because the seditions are insulting him, and so he's putting his own feelings and emotions into play. But I think the bigger picture is we just need to stop insulting people personally when we disagree. And you see it all the time in the political space. Somebody disagrees with this political leader and it start going personal, insulting them, this other political leader, and we start throwing the insults back and forth. That's not healthy. I disagree with this administration in a lot of ways, right? But I also recognize that President Weah is president of Liberia, right? So if President Weah comes in the room, if the protocol is for all of us to stand up, I'll be standing up to respect the office of the president, even if I don't like what he's doing or I don't agree with him. I mean, I think that's where I think as a society we need to go. Let's have those strong disagreements. We can disagree with 99.9% of everything, but still give each other that little human decency. That okay, you're a human being. I respect that much, and we disagree on everything else. So I think that's how I look at it. I disagree with the fact that the other seditions are insulting him, especially or threatening him in the house. I think that's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Especially where we make the law. That's where the law should be followed, and we're not doing that. And if other folks are wearing the same thing or in the same format and not getting thrown out, that's also wrong. It's inconsistent. And that's the thing with a lot of times in our society, especially I would say this institution, this government as a whole, the very same things that you're criticizing or you're telling other people not to do, you're doing the same thing in daylight, or you've done it and you haven't come back to say, okay, I did it, but that was wrong, right? They don't say that. So if you made a mistake and you said something or did something in this context, you can come back and say, you know what? Yes, looking back, that was wrong. I can see now, but they don't acknowledge it. They don't accept it. But yet the other person's doing the same thing. Now you're mad, so it's confusing.
If you just join us,
and
Moses, we
go
gotta
ahead,
go
go ahead.
put the number up because we passed 11 already,
Yeah,
and we got
okay.
one more topic, so we're gonna be done with Yekeh's story now because we gotta
Okay.
come to the direction, and that's a very because part of the conversation than Yekeh and his everyday, we
Yes.
just want to throw light on it because I think it's important for us to look at it from a balanced scorecard. And again, I want to give President Weah, credit for not scooping to, taking some unnecessary actions against Yekeh. And I will hope that he will continue to stay in that modus operandi uh, with regards to Yekeh. But again, uh, hopefully his colleagues in the house don't challenge him to a fist fight because Yekeh look like strong man. I think what Carlos Gray doing, he want to fight Yekeh. Hey man, why
But
go
look,
see crowd? And the one who say because the man see the crowd, so he acting like he's strong. They
but
put
look,
a Carlos Gray and Yekeh outside. You know what will happen? He
you
challenge
know,
Yekeh.
McKenna, let me just quickly say that what Mr. Weah is doing is what in behavior modification we call ignorance.
Okay,
When the negative behavior is being displayed with the intent of seeking your reaction, you look other way, it extinguishes the behavior. You
okay,
can
so
take
that's
for
good.
example, if you are continuously calling me, rogue, and I say nothing to you, you will say, well, look, the guy, he has no time for me. You want to stop because the purpose of you doing that is for me to respond in similar way. And that's what George Weah is doing. He said, look, I'm the leader, I'm the president. I'm not going to stoop to Yekeh's level.
And
So
in
that's what he's
addition,
doing.
there are a lot of
He has been
there are
able
a
to
lot of
do that
people pushing
successfully.
him. I think a lot of his boys pushing him behind the scene to do
Yeah,
things, and
yeah,
he's staying focused on
yeah,
bigger things or other things rather than
Than
Yekeh,
to
which
focus
is
on
right.
Yekeh.
And I
Yeah.
think that that's the best thing he should continue to do, as I said, because it's not going to go well. But again, our Karas Gray, Yekeh can challenge all the old general and say, I bet any of them will come, and then come that you won't come for Yekeh. You better think differently. But let me come to the fact here that we open the lines now, and our callers can call. The number is 404-272-2808. We have two important, distinguished, intelligent studio discussants here tonight, John Yormie and Phillip Suah. But we want to talk about the at-risk youth in our society. This is the burning issue here now, considering where our country is, and it's been trending for months now, with respect to how this population is increasing by the day, and the threat, the risks it poses to our surviving society. These are the very young people who supposed to be inheriting our country. John, you are blessed and fortunate to hold a graduate degree uh, in any sense of the word. Philip, the same for you. Moses, the same for you. The same for me. But we're just four here on this platform tonight. How many other young people could ascribe to this level that we've accomplished? A lot of them could have. So one of the things that I saw in one interview that was done by Spoon TV, one of the outside interviews by one of the staff,
Yeah. Mhm.
the young man said that the Liberian government prior failed us. And we elected, we are hoping that he will do more for us. And even in that interview, they still commit to putting we are back in power.
Oh,
You
wow.
understand me? They were still committed. They say, even though all the things doing the all he care
Wow.
for, but we
Hello,
still
man. We
believe in
still
him.
root for you.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
still believe in him. But these people, according to one of the guys, he sounded very intelligent. He talked about the continued use of the drug, how it dilapidating is depressing, and there's nothing he can do about it, even though he's not a criminal. He finds his drug by going to load car and begging people, and that's how he gets his drug. There's no
Hmm.
way he can come off his drug. And let me just tell caller, please hold. We'll come to you. Caller, please hold. I'm just making a point quick. And so he said that the only thing they were fighting to do on Ellen's time was to take the gun away from them, but they didn't do the other things: the triple arrow, the
Yeah.
repatriation, the
Rehabilitation.
rehabilitation, the remobilization, and the reintegration, and all of that. They didn't do that part, and so now they're left in limbo. They're left in limbo, and this is where they are, and their lives are in total miserability. And this is not just men, it's also women. Okay,
Mhm.
so apparently we have two callers. Let me just take these two callers quick and we'll come back to this topic. uh
Okay.
The caller from a 7845.
The 717?
Yeah, 717. Let's do this quick. Welcome. Your
Yeah,
name, where you calling from?
I'm calling from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, James Davis.
Okay, welcome, James.
Yeah, when it comes to the book issue, a little different with Mr. Yormie, where he say liberal military women, but I think I'm different with him.
Hold on. No. You said like Yomi said Liberian men treat women bad.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
No, you say you think now. You see the higher the sporting. Yomi said our society does not call for that. He even mentioned where Liberian men would give the seat to the woman in a car, or the seat if there was a bus and the man was sitting, he would get up and give the seat.
Yeah, because anyway, I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
Let's clarify that. Don't.
Okay, I'm sorry because even when we're traveling through Ivory Coast, we used to give women seats in the car.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but when it comes to that issue, what I call with the women of Liberia was they described them in a book. They didn't demonstrate.
They're fighting for themselves, man. They're fighting
for. They were fighting for power. So you mean is this an attitude?
All right, thank you.
So they will come to the Yekeh side.
Okay, you got Yekeh too.
Yeah, one row Yekeh.
Yekeh is acting for Australia.
Okay.
Everything that been happening to Yekeh, everything he put on the plan or whatsoever, they don't take into consideration.
Nothing.
They didn't take nothing. Any communication for Yekeh, they never discussed one of his communication before. The way he refused, he don't want to be any part of the I don't know, to be chairman for anything.
Okay.
Because they don't take nothing from him. So that's why it's frustration. If you working with people or you school administration or something, they don't discuss everything they do, they leave you off by yourself, you'll be frustrated.
You're right. And I think that's something we missed too, because he said he has written several times to the speaker.
Yes, several. Yeah,
it has been no redress. So thank you so much. Let me go to the next caller. Thank you so much, James. Thank you. Yeah. Let's take this last caller quick from the caller from 4239. That's Maryland. Caller, you there?
Yes. This is Sabina. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hold 1 second. Let me put this other caller in queue. All right. I got this caller in queue. I'll come back to the caller in queue. Just hang on there, and let's come back to this caller. All right, caller. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is Sabina Cole calling from Texas. I want to say thank you to you guys for the show tonight, and more importantly for your thoughts on this quote-unquote book, chapter 13. So I really appreciate it.
You know, when you said the chapter 13, I was thinking on Friday the 13th.
I know. That's what you're going to say. You're book now.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, you laugh about this a little bit. But it's not funny, you know, we look at it, you know, the big picture is not funny. But so another thing I wanted to add to this, I know one or two of you guys mentioned it, it's not only about the First Lady. I see people changing their profile picture and just doing the most. It is not about just her. What is true that, yes, she was mentioned, but it's also about Liberian women. It's about women in period. I mean, just period, women around the world. And so people need to look at it from all those angles. Even the women in Liberia, the traditional women in 72 hours, they came up with protests. Gender Ministry Pisota came out with long drawn speech that she hadn't done before. We're hoping that with all the rape cases, with all the domestic violence cases, with all the everything else, that they will respond in just that amount of time to all the other things and not just this. So,
thank you.
Finally, let me just say this. So it's nothing directed at one person because I'm not in that political thing. I'm looking at for the names of to both authors. The both authors are responsible. Since this book came out, we have been demanding three things: open apology from both of them. Also, Mr. Ava be fired, which that aspect has been completed. The third one is that they recall the book and the fixed chapter 13 or the eliminated chapter 13. So
we're losing you. We're losing you, Telvi.
Sorry.
We're still losing you. It seems like you're bouncing around.
Are you away from your phone?
Okay, so okay, we'll let you go. So she wants chapter 13 eliminated from the book, and hopefully then it will raise the book back to all the positivities that were in the book and the initial
Absolutely.
intent in the first place. Let me take the last caller quick.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you guys.
Okay,
Sure.
hold on, I've got a caller. Hassan Kewu.
Yeah, good evening. How are you?
Good. Welcome to the show. Are you following?
Oh, yes, I'm following the discussion. I'm following the chapter 13, and then I'm following the Yekeh Kolubah issue.
God, hold on. River says Pro, please hold. I will come back to you. River says Pro, I'll come back to you. Go ahead, Hassan.
Okay, so Liberia doesn't cease to amaze me, and when there was this brouhaha all over the place about the chapter 13, I was one of those who condemned it in no uncertain terms. But then the next day,
we're losing you a little bit.
It's
Hassan.
lying. It's lying.
Location. You're going in and out.
hear me now?
No, it's horrible. We can you call
You
back?
want to change your location?
Okay,
Find a better
okay, I'll call you
location
back.
and call back.
Okay,
All
okay.
right. Okay. Yeah, this caller calls from Arizona 7898.
Yes.
Oh yeah, go ahead, make your point.
Oh yeah, my name is Magnus Lobo. Oh yeah, I want to say thank you to the panelists. I've been listening and following closely. First, I just got two issues. I just want to discuss on the two issues, especially
Okay,
when it comes
just
to
1 second, quick. 1 second. Let me
Okay.
tell this caller, put him in queue. The caller from North Carolina. Please wait. I'll come back to you. All right, go ahead.
Yeah,
Caller
when
from
it comes
Arizona,
to
go ahead.
so when it comes to the ladies, it's just sad that I seen all the ladies in Liberia they are talking about, and this is the government, the CDC government is the one. I seen all the ministers are all posting on their page, posting the first lady. There was the same government that was here a few years ago who took woman on her clothes in the street. I didn't see that thing. I didn't see these things. We all gotta be factual here. You understand me? And even all the lay girls that have been raped. So what the government was they been sleeping? So that this issue wake up them. And
What's
in
the
the book,
second
the guy
point?
is quoted. Okay, my second point is with Yekeh.
Okay.
I listened to Akara Grace saying he will be Yekeh. That'll be factual. Yeah. President Weah was elected for 6 years. Some of us didn't vote for President Weah to be president, but we okay with it, and he's being respected, and he's the president. The same thing with Yekeh. Yekeh was elected for 6 years. Some people don't agree with him, but he's a representative. And I don't think they've been treating Yekeh fair in the house. This is what happened. Yekeh is being frustrated.
Yeah.
Yekeh has been frustrated.
Thank you.
And this is happening.
Okay. Let me take the next caller. Thank you so much. The caller from Charlotte, North Carolina, 8486.
Yeah, Mr. Shelton, this is Jerome calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to talk on something about Yekeh Kolubah first, before I go to the book. But you see, if you see what Yekeh have gone through or is going through, it will trickle. Even if any human being, it will trickle you to behave the way you behaving. The main house was bust into, and they took stuff out. Nobody say anything.
Caller, just hold. Let me put his last caller in queue quick. I'll come right back to you. Caller, please wait. I'll come back to you. The caller just called. I'll come back to you. Continue, caller.
Okay, so, and the man, little babies were traveling. They detained them, took their food from them, and then took passport, everything, for little baby that don't even know what's going on in the world. Because of one person, because of Weah, everybody in that house is against.
So, but do you think the way Yekeh can be cussing President Weah, cussing the man to the point of man cussing, or you think it's correct? You are said to now.
Well, there's something can trigger something, Mr. Shelton.
Yeah, but remember, Yekeh Nana Zogos. Yekeh Nana crazy man. Yekeh ain't walking around the street picking a rock and chunking it. Yekeh is a representative. He's a statesman. Come on now, my man. There's a better way to go about it, right?
I understand Yekeh supposed to be decent.
Let's be on the same page now. I know Yekeh. treated bad and all of that, but there's a way to do it, right? When you aggrieved, right?
We honestly, I agree.
Okay.
But we are on the same page. But the thing is, we are human. Look, the man is working. He not taking pay. You think, look, you yourself, Mr. Shelton, sitting now over there, or you working for
my man, I'm sitting there on pro bono, man. What's wrong with it, man? Nothing coming. But let me tell you something. I didn't know that the legislatures, in fact, some of these legislators should be pro bono legislators because they're making too much money that they're confused and they're doing nothing.
Yeah.
Let me be frank with you.
They're doing nothing. And then if you see this gone or section, you see that if you see behind Yekeh Kolubah, the same t-shirt that was under the Yekeh Kolubah coat, it was under another representative or coat, but they did not touch him. But because Yekeh is against the president, everybody against Yekeh.
No, don't say against the president and a choice of words. They say criticizes the president.
Okay,
because the president. I just want us to be careful here.
Okay. Criticize the president.
Okay.
Now, lastly for Yekeh, when Yekeh returned,
okay,
and he draw went for him, you know.
We know that story. We know the story.
Yeah, but see what they did to him. They impounded his car.
Yeah.
And they have never done that to
anybody. They say they mentioned Rob Pimpin.
Yeah. And then the security king also told him in the face because he can cause the president. That's why you see, there's no respect for authority in that country.
Yeah.
There's no respect. And the court passed order. You are paid the man. They overlook it. Now you see, this is what triggering this man to go and say stuff that he does, because they say the fish start getting rotten from the hair. Weah is the hair, so that's why he attacked the hair. Even though he wrong, but he attacked the hair. Now, according to the book, this book, at least they wrote something about Weah. Did I say at least? Yes, I did. But there are people they raped, they killed, that die. And no concerned women of Liberia came out to say Jack. But because they just wrote something for this first lady in the book, these are people, they are R7. Graffiti is going on in the country. They're not speaking out. Just a few days, a 7-year-old were raped and killed. Nobody said nothing about that. They did not get up to say, oh, we did this. And when President John Weah was in a sedition, in the CDC opposition force, they put on a cloth up there, put reacting on it. They say it was Madam Ellie. They paraded the street, everything. Man, I did not put nobody in jail. Did not raise it up to do this. Now, just for this, they're going about doing it because they just wrote something for the people are dying. Nothing.
Okay. Thank you. Let me take the last caller.
It's not going on.
All right. Thank you. We're running out of time. This will be the last caller. We got to get back to our final topic. Go ahead, Hassan. Welcome back.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, as I was saying, Liberia never ceases to amaze me. When the issue of that chapter 13 or the excerpt came out, I was one of those who condemned it in no uncertain terms. And everybody was outraged. Then the next day, the women started marching Monrovia, vagina under attack. And I'm asking myself, when did vagina come under attack? Vagina did not come under attack that same day or through chapter 13. Just about sometime a year or two ago, a guy took a razor blade and tear off a baby's vagina because he couldn't penetrate. And then a baby was raped in diapers.
That stuff has haunted my intelligence today. When I read that stuff, it happened, I believe, in Lofa County. He was 17 years old.
It happened in Bapulo.
That's what I'm saying. Lofa,
yeah. And so I like that.
The old Lofa, because Bapulo is Lofa actually.
Okay.
Then politics not bring anything now.
Then a baby in diapers was raped. Then forget about all that. The recent one that happened, a girl, 13-year-old, was sodomized and raped to death. Not a single woman came up to say we condemn it in no uncertain terms.
And including the gender minister.
Including the gender minister, my own sister. Everybody. Now, I wrote a post on Facebook, and I said, who carries those vaginas? The women. Who is best suited to save that vagina? The gender minister. They have not said anything. So people have the perception in Liberia that the only way there will be people can create consciousness or awareness unless you are a member of the elite, a family member of the elite before somebody says about it. So that means that life doesn't matter. It matters to nobody unless you are a member of the elite class or something happens. And so it has happened so much. Now we need to do something. Most of these cases are collecting dust. Let us expedite these things so people who are fond of raping our girls, our mothers, our whatnot, can know that indeed there are laws that are penalties attached, so that we can get away with this pandemic. You know, we need to get away with this pandemic. Otherwise, women will start to take matters into their hands. We'll see a lot of castration coming on, and I don't think it's a good thing for us. And then, yes, I mean,
you just get me using word castration.
Yeah. They will call, yeah, they will,
I know. I'm just saying. I'm just a thought about it.
No, of course. I mean, in my time with the BBC, 35 years plus, I cover international stories where ladies
they do that stuff. I think in Kenya.
Yeah, Kenya, even in New York, they castrated, and the other lady castrated somebody in Georgia and gave it to the dogs. Say you will never be planted. I mean, we didn't get to that stage where the women were gang up against us simply because the government failed or the government functionaries failed to act. The time to act is now. We got to get rid of the shadow pandemic. They got to get rid of this shadow pandemic. Even during COVID, when there was quarantine, there was so-called quarantine paradox, where the men, they were idle. That's the time they start banging on the women, abusing them. Why in a society we have become so lawless and the rape has risen to an all-time high? We have to take some steps. I'm not going to tell a snake how to bite, but if somebody is fed, if you chase the snake too long and the snake is fed up, we turn right back on you. We don't want to get to that stage where people take the laws in their own hands. Then on to the case of Yekeh Kolubah. There should be no reason why Yekeh Kolubah should insult a sitting president or our president. There should be no reason why he should do that. However, the guys in the legislature are not the body guys, are not the guys that should be fighting, physically fighting, insulting, or want to fight Yekeh Kolubah because of the president. I think it's a separate branch of government, and if Yekeh Kolubah has a standard bearer, which is Alexander Cummings, you can insult Alexander Cummings all you want, but I don't think fighting for that it lowers the morale and standard of the legislature. So the legislature is the one fighting for the president. Simply, I think we have lowered our standard. I don't think that's a good thing. Yes, Yekeh Kolubah is dead wrong for insulting our president, but I'm sure there are remedies, there are actions that the president can take. If the president feels that he's been insulted, then they should take it to court or some sort of
through the house.
Yeah, or take it through the house. But Thomas Fala and Safoko and what's his name, Akaros Gray cannot go and say, especially Safoko. I heard him. I saw him. We're attacking physically. What are we now? You can't be insulting them. But you said there, your leader is Buffer Chambers, and what the guy Yekeh Kolubah talks things in a condescending manner to Buffer, leader. And you say nothing. He who is your direct leader. Meanwhile, you are fighting for the president. I think the president can fight for himself, or there should be some kind of a punishment for Yekeh Kolubah for his persistence in doing that.
Thank you.
But I don't think the legislature should be fighting. We've lowered our standard, so to the point where we become bodyguards for the executive.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Hassan. Gentlemen, listen. There's no way that we can say we set time and we stick to time. Unfortunately, I would beg you guys will go 8:45. Look at your time there. It's 8:36 here. And let me just go around the room. Bring your perspective on the premise I laid prior regarding our at-risk youth in the country. Let's start with our discussants, and then Moses will come in. Who goes first?
John, you want to go?
Okay, let me go. Thank you for the opportunity. So, the whole youth at risk thing is a whole bunch of things to talk about, but I mean, just to talk, a bit of it.
And this will be
Firstly,
an ongoing conversation because
sure,
again,
sure,
it's
sure,
serious.
sure. So, I think for the past few years, the youth at risk thing has been a disaster to explode. It has been, and people have really reneged on their responsibility from the government to civil society and even to the communities. Just to give a little backdrop, the youth awakes thing started. I mean, it became very popular when folks from the Don Bosco home were being released without any proper reintegration in society because that project phased out and they had no funding anymore, and they were actually helping. I mean, we were young people, abandoned young people within that project, but because they were no longer having the capacity to do that, they just got released into the street, and they had no skills, they had no means of acquiring livelihoods, so they were basically involved into crime. From a participant observation, I can say that we saw them doing that, and some of them were brave enough to explain to us from a research perspective that these are the things that have caused us to get into the street. But there has been something very interesting about all of the various trends of the youth outbreaks, because from the origin to the most recent past and to the current situation, they have always been willing to avail themselves for rehabilitation. And that is one of the most important things. What have we done as a people to make sure we identify them? We as a research group just recently, like a year or two ago, wrote some of the stakeholders within the country that have, I want to say, have presented themselves to be interested in helping the youth outbreaks and making it key part of their campaign messages. We've reached out to them. What can we do? We have a solution. We have a piece of advice. You cannot solve this problem without empirical or procedure. You must identify what have caused these people to get into the street. What is the demographic composition? If you went to Center Street, there are thousands of these people over there. If
Living
you
in the
went to a place,
cemetery.
yeah, if you went to the place in ELW on the beach side that is called Zimbabwe, these are people there, and you see them, they talk to you, they say we commission crime, we do things, and they are involved within the actual display of drug in the eyes of stakeholders. But I would tell in the society that this has become part of our society. People are carry on criminal activity because as per the penal code of the Republic of Liberia, bringing drugs and in any way practicing drug or abuse within the society is criminal. All right. But now we see people go and talk to these people. They are on tape. They are actually consuming drug. And we are accepting it and saying, hey, it is no problem with that because stakeholders go and see them and take no action and say, we need to do this. We need to do this. Who we are to do this? I mean, representatives go and say we need to do it. Pastors go and say we need to do it. Senators go and say we need to do it. So who are we to solve this problem? So it has become, I mean, an explosion within our society. And it goes across the 15 political subdivisions. You may feel that the youth at risk situation is a Monrovia thing. No, and there is a pattern. They consume, they commission crime, they avail themselves, and during holidays, police go and do raids, get them into the prison. 2 3 days, they are released back into the society with another polluted mind of saying, how have I become something called a recidivist? Commissioning crime, being arrested again, go back again, and it has become a pattern. So we have just played politics with the youth outbreaks, and it has turned out to be our social problem. And just to conclude, the situation in Douala just recently was another clarion call to say things are going out of hand. Till now, no investigation, no findings. What happened? What could happen again? And quite recently, we saw what happened. What could happen is just something anybody can predict. A lot of problems going to happen. People become very, very risky when they have no reason to live again. And most of them are like that. So they fear
And
nothing.
I like this just before Philip comes in. You see what happened here? Ordinary 29 Liberians died. They pretended like they're going to do something. We haven't heard anything. Today, the first lady, just a description. The whole world is shaking. Had it been some representative at that, or what you call it, crusade, or government official, top government officials that died as a result of that crappy stampede, then the narrative will be different. Why we continue to do these things? Because here it is, Philip. The truth is, this is an existential time bomb that Liberia sits on if we don't address the need of these young people. Never before in my time, they only used to call grown-up boys. That one used to call grown-up boy. You play football whole day, you go to the movies, you know. But it's dangerous for our country, and I'm afraid who this country going to be left with? Come in, Philip.
Yeah. So yes, I think you described it well. There are ways people can tell you they're in pain, right? And they keep telling us that's what the quote unquote Zogos are telling us, that they're in pain, you know, and they're repeating the message in different ways in the way they behave and the way they carry things out. It is best to help people when they're telling you they're in pain than for you to wait until they inflict pain on you or other people you care about before you start trying to solve this problem. This is a big problem. So I took some numbers. I looked on the paper here to try to read some numbers, just a breakdown of our population and what that means, right? So I wrote some numbers that I found on the UN site. So they're saying from ages 0 to 14, right, make up 43% of our population. 0
That's
to 14.
a lot of people.
Yeah. And then ages 15 to 24 make up about 20.3% of our population. So between 0 to 24,
65. Put it at that.
Yeah, 60 some odd percent, yeah, almost 65% from 0 to 24. If you look at the population under 35, they're saying is about a third of our population under 35. And I mean, a third of our population between 15 and 35. From 0 to 35 is 74% of our population. So we don't really have a lot of people, you know, in that elderly bracket or 55 plus. So we have the bulk of our population as youthful population. Now, when some of us raise the issue about the budget, right? Because the budget is what helps us to make this situation better, right? Where are we putting the money relative to that existential problem you described, right? Where are we putting the money relative to what John mentioned about the recidivism rate of putting people in and out of jail during holiday season?
Just to pause you there, we don't have the capacity to even host the people now.
Correct.
Letting them out.
Correct. So where are we putting the money? And I've stated, and others have stated, you know, in the past that in order for us to change what we have as a problem, we have to invest in, one, their mental health. One of the issues that we didn't do after 1990 with some of the relief effort, we didn't direct some of that towards rehabilitating people in a way where they get better. Before I left Liberia, I had an opportunity to work with Unmail for a very short period of time, 96. After the April 6th, so I was assigned to Shelton doing this whole bring your guns in exchange for food coupon, healthcare, I think it was agriculture. That never went much, right? It didn't go anywhere in terms of changing people's lives. They got a piece of paper, but we never followed through as a society. And since then, people have been exposed to a lot. There's a book that a gentleman wrote. I was looking at Jonathan Gruber from here. The problems we're facing in Liberia, they face the same problems here with youth. And he mentioned a few things, and I wrote down here. He said healthcare, right? The access to healthcare in societies is also a determining factor in putting them in that position. Even here in the States, education. He says no education opportunities. He said those with less education or poor education quality have worse life outcomes, right, than the others. And then he also put in like your parents. If your parents didn't go to school or you don't have access to quality education, it puts you in that bracket. The last thing he mentioned was he called contextual influence, right? And he mentioned the crime rate in the community. So if you grew up in a community where there's crime, you learn a lot of these things, and then you grew up into that. So you can see that even here in America, we have problems, right? The difference is they put resources there to try to minimize the impact on society as a whole. In Liberia, we have not done so. We had in the past, we had LOIC, right? We have BWI.
And I'm a graduate of LOIC. Moses is a graduate of BWI.
There you go. So you guys, you see, I mean, you just made my point. I didn't know that. So
I graduated from LOIC. I was the Val.
Yeah. If we took some of the money that we talked about in the last segment a while ago, took money and started investing in these young men and women, right? Creating the environment where they can see alternatives for themselves. That's a start. If you put money in some of the mental health situation, because it's not all just bad behavior. Some of these people came from wars. They did things, they saw things, they experienced things, whether they were perpetrators or they were, being preyed on. They were impacted in ways. So that mental health aspect has to be in there. That ability to come from or understanding what your trauma was, how you can become better, and then someone putting hands around you with opportunities for you to do better, for you to have a means of income, for you to have a different perspective on life. We're not doing it. We're taking the money and we're giving the money to people in the higher earning brackets to do travel. I mentioned buying cars, giving government officials gas when they're not driving as much as the number of gallons of gas that they're doing. All the savings from there can be used to put some of these young men and women in situations where they can do better. Now, we all have family and friends. I have family who was considered Zogo, like without getting specific with my family member category, that was in there, been arrested before. Person is no longer with us, but arrested, right? The same drug situation, so going through all of that. I got friends who I know now who's in the same, tailspin. So it's not like these people are just people who weren't born where they don't have families, right? Some of these things are beyond their control. Some of it, is personal behavior, but some people were roped into that behavior and now they can't get out. So what are we doing? We're allowing 60+% of our population, or a huge percentage of our population, to roam around without opportunities, no hope. Imagine the history of our country with some of the violence we've had. Take that history. Take a group of young men, a group of young women who have no vision of success in their lives, and bring the two together and see what could be wrong with us down the line if we don't fix this problem. It could be harmful to our society as a whole. It could be harmful to us individually, because you and I could be robbed or hurt or harmed in Liberia by some of these very same people, right? So that's the thing that's frustrating. Sometimes when you come out passionately against this administration, sometimes people say it's just politics, or you're from a different party, or it's not political. These are some of the issues that are killing us as a society. If that population density is not exposed to education, is not exposed to what it takes to build our country tomorrow, who's going to be leading? Look, the demographics I look at, it says ages 55 plus in Liberia is 6.29% of the population.
They're already out.
So
and they still won't be president.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's frustrating because in 20 years, you have these people now, who, that we're describing here. They're now in their 30s, or 40s, or 20s, or whatever, plus 20. They have no foundation. Look at us when we grew up. We didn't have to go. We didn't have to go to college. The Liberia that I grew up in, we didn't have to go to college to have the right mindset, to speak clearly, to articulate, right? Yeah, college was good, but when I got in 12th grade, right, man,
you were already sound.
Exactly, I was sound. I was disciplined by everybody in my community. I knew how to respect individuals in the society. I knew how to carry myself. I knew how to do the basic things. I still needed more pruning and development, but I had a lot going for me when I hit 10th grade. Then most of these young men, we're still calling them youth, but they're in the 40s. And it's not a misplacement because the mind has been stuck in that of what we would traditionally call youth, right? No opportunity. So look, this one is a problem, and I'm hopeful that this administration can find the means right, can find, well, not the means, they can find the heart desire to prioritize this aspect of our country and not focus on the other things, that can wait.
So let me just say this Moses, before you come in quick. And unfortunately, these kinds of conversation, I don't know if we can really make them, threefold, like coming with this segment, this segment, this segment. So I would say honestly, and I want to beg of the two of you, no matter what coming tomorrow, if they tell me say Liberia fell down last night on Thursday, next week, let it fall down, we'll get to it on Tuesday. We need to come back here and hold this discussion as a single discussion and come with solutions. We summarize some of the key points and then we come with solutions because we're capable. We'll do the research and we'll come here. So let's commit for next Friday, gentlemen. Let it be, because I'm telling you, I'm concerned. I'm concerned. No matter how many skyscrapers you build, if you don't have the human capacity, people developed in the mind, it is of no use. It is of no use. And those demographics you give, those statistical data you give in terms of the age disparity and the component of the Liberian society is critical. It's critical. So I don't care what president he can build roads to nowhere if he doesn't have people with the capacity to own a car. Look at you and myself. Tell me, what type of car you want, you can go in the car lot now to get. Because the capacity have been built. People here working only $15 an hour, but they can ride any car they want to ride. And so that person is not going to go look for something to do wrong, like to steal or burglarize somebody's house. He has a job to go to commit. So again, I think we should come back here next Friday, gentlemen, and let's start from there. This is very important. So I would say we'll wrap up here. Moses will come in with a chime, and then because when I ask you for a closing statement, you can forget again. You won't go for another 10 minutes. So we're already closing at 9. We're supposed to close at 8:45. So let's just do it now. So come back. Is there a commitment to come back Friday? Please.
Yes.
Thank you. We can come back Friday.
All that great stuff. Thank you. Because a lot of people, we want to give some people the opportunity to call in on this very particular topic. Thank you, gentlemen, for committing. Let's come to you, Moses.
Yeah, quickly, I just wanted to say that you guys have said almost everything, but let me provide some perspectives, and I will begin by looking at the population we call Zogos.
But you don't want to keep that perspective for next, because look at the time, buddy.
No, but I'm just going to summarize.
Okay, all right.
So, in our population, you have what we call discharges from the prison system. Individuals who are released from the prison and thrown right back into the street because they have nowhere to go. The homeless population is also part of that group. Individuals with issues of mental health form part of that group. Prostitutes form part of that group. Runaway kids. Yeah, from whom all of these. And the most talked about individuals who are addicted to substances, drugs, and alcohol. Now, I heard you guys say one of the challenges we have in our country, and I think it is insensitivity. Maybe they do not have people in Liberia who have the expertise, who understand the implications of having people running all over the place and their needs are not being attended to. But look, unless we pay a key attention.
Moses, add to that population pimping boys and keke boys.
Yeah, only guys, they make up the population. Yeah, they make up the population. Yeah, and then unfortunately, we have a government, and that is an age-old problem. It's not a job we are proud. All the years, past administration have paid little or no attention to these guys. The former combatants, the drug addicts, discharges from prison, nobody pays attention to them. In developed society, like the United States, research shows that on an annual basis, millions of dollars are used to cater to these people. Because if you don't, the implications are profoundly huge. Like I heard you guys say, crime. Yes, studies shows that there is a correlation between addiction and crime. Because if the man wants to use drugs, the man wants to get drunk to pass out, it doesn't matter whether he's going to break into someone's vehicle, he's going to break into someone's house. When that time reaches, that man is going to do it. When that strong desire, which is referred to as craving, when the dopamine, the brain chemistry associate substance used to gratification, when it is time to do that, it doesn't matter what you do. It's like when you're hungry, you got to go looking for that food wherever it is. And our government in Liberia, including the current administration, looks the other way. Look at the current national budget. There's nothing in there for these people. Nobody cares about them. All they say zugus, zugus, zugus. But then, as a government, if you are not catering to this population, you're just compounding the problem. But let me keep it there for Friday. We can come and provide better analysis.
And I'm telling you, Friday would be a good conversation. I know Phillip will extend his research. John will do the same. Gentlemen, listen, man.
Yeah.
You guys are think tankers, intellectual think tankers.
Mhm.
Our country is very, very important. And that is why we spend time looking at the issues in our country. That's why we're in the issues room. So not just the issues, let's start finding some solutions to those issues. Whether the people listen, whether the government take heed. You know, one of the things I thought that any government would do to identify young people like you and myself who are intellectually stimulated all the time, researching and finding information out there that could be utilized. Like the last time you were here, Phil, you looked at the scenarios in other countries and you drew it closer to Liberia, what she was not doing and continue to fail to do, and how it could be replicated to change the dynamics in our country. And that's just this platform. You can imagine how many other intellectual young people, even in Liberia on the grounds, who are deprived the opportunity to get into a space to make the points and position, clear. So I will hope that we'll come back here Friday, look at this information. I mean, this topic rather, with the kinds of information that will drive this discussion. So thank you, gentlemen. We're out of time. John, was good seeing you tonight. Phil, thank you. Go do your personal stuff. I will contact you during the course of the week.
And you'll pay for my Yekeh because I missed it.
Thank you. It's always good being here. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you.
I will catch up with you guys.
John, it's always a pleasure having you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Phillip. So, Moses, man, this is it. We got to go. It's 9
beautiful show.
Great conversation. Too stimulating, intelligent young men who've made their contributions here tonight. I will hope that we'll be able to build the kind of platform for solutions, for our country, and we're capable. That's why we are the alternative issues room, to come here and look at some of the things, and not just talking, pointing.
You come here, you sorting someone's mom.
yeah. But again, great show. I'm so happy that we could get together.
Yeah, thank you, Volcano.
Thank you to all of our viewers. Miata Sterling Herring, I say thank you for coming in tonight. It was good having you in the house. Some of your good points you put forth. My man Thomas Awaji, the legendary, I call him, Koli Katakor, Samuel Guano, Mabla Nikia, what's the guy's name here? Adia High, Umo, Florence Kingsley, Telvi Cole, thanks for your contribution. Good conversation. James Davis, always good to have you. Now, Miento Nino Brown, it was also good having you in the house. Bennett O'Connor, thank you so much, my brother, for being here with us tonight. All you wonderful people, Yakuyu Harris, Madam Yvette Sifos, it was good having you. Timothy Nair and River Says Pro was also in the house. Dicey Davis, just a whole lot of good people. We like to have you here because it stimulates the conversation. Just seeing you guys in the house and the comments you're making. Washington Fofana, it was also good having you in the house here in the issues room. Tony and Brooks, long time. Good to have you back here with us in the issues room. Wonderful conversation. Jerome Roberts, good to have you too. We'll be back here on Tuesday with a segment of conversations, and Friday we'll be discussing the Rick's Youth thing, a much more in-depth analysis with some solutions as to what the Liberian government can do to start identifying, potential resources to help our young people, our millions of young people who are downtrodden in that country, who seem to have no hope. And while we're able to easily spew all zogos and crazy and wayward and all of that, we should be able to look at it from a more sustained approach where we can provide some kind of good feedback to the government, to the international community. Because I tell you the truth, the international community is a major contributor to the situation over there in Liberia. You take the arms from the young people, but you did not follow through on the 3 hours, what you call remobilization, reintegration, and what's the other one other but the 3 hours with the disarmament piece, they didn't pay attention to that. So again, we need to really talk about this to ensure that good things are happening for our young people. I'm afraid we're fading out. We're fading out, and these people are going to inherit our country. Otherwise, our country will go to foreigners, and we don't want that. So again, thank you so much. We'll be back here Tuesday and Friday. Volcano Shelton is my name. Oh, somebody said rehabilitation. Thank you. So reintegration, rehab, and what? Remobilize. So I guess, why don't you just put the 3 hours there for me? Rehabilitation, repeat rehabilitation, remobilization, and reintegration. Okay, so I guess that's it. Thank you so much. Good night.